Hi everyone, I'm April and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. This, I believe, is episode number 13. So I haven't gotten a whole lot done from last week. I'm still working on my Garden of Allah shawl and I'll show it real quick here, but it's gotten really big and I'm almost through with the main color yarn. I think I've got one more repeat of the main chart and then I go into the border before I start putting in the Malabrigo Rios contrast color. So I'm almost there, but I haven't really worked a whole lot on it. I've been kind of busy this week. The other thing that I had been working on was my brown bagging at Sock Club for March. This was the pattern that I've been kind of making up as I go. And I am about halfway through the foot. I'm not quite to where I need to do the gusset just yet. So those are still, I'm chugging along, but I'm definitely going to have them done by the next episode because that'll be the end of the month and because it will be April, and April means a new Brown Bagging It Sock Club contender. And if you're new to my show, you'll know that, I'll tell you, whoa, I can't speak right now. If you're new to this channel, I do the Brown Bagging It Sock Club. It's a group on Ravelry. There's no prizes or anything. It's just a fun way to get some yarn out of your stash and make some socks. And what you do is you get your yarn, you put it into a brown paper bag and you label it with numbers, and then you can randomly choose a bag. Well, you don't have to put numbers, you can just randomly pick a bag. I did numbers and I use a random number generator to pick the next bag for me so that I'm not tempted to go and open the bags and decide, oh, well, I don't want to play with that yarn today. It's literally out of my control. The random number generator does it for me. So, for April, I've already chosen my colors. I've already done the random number generator and it's all ready to go. And I ended up picking this yarn out of my bags. This is from the Yarn Therapist on Etsy. And it is her merino nylon base. It's an 80-20 base. And she calls this colorway Sunset. And then I have a little ball of Pandia's Jewels. It was her MCN base, and I don't think she has this base anymore. But this was a colorway she called Mermaid. Look at, there's a little shot of bright pink in there. It's so pretty. I love this stuff so much. I adore it. But I only have this little bit left, so I think I'm going to use it as I'm going to make... On the 9-inch circulars, I'm going to just do a plain vanilla sock and use this as an afterthought heel. I think it'll look really good together. And this particular yarn, the way that it was dyed, looks like you can pull it from the outside and work inward and pull from the inside. And because the color kind of repeats back on itself. So it's yellow, orange, it goes into some pinks and purples to the blue. And then from the blue, it goes backward again toward the yellow. So I will be able to get 2 pair of identical socks out of this, just working from opposite ends of the ball. So yeah, I think I'm going to do toe up because I don't know how long these are going to get, and I'm going to do the afterthought heel. I have some 9-inch circulars. I'm not a huge fan of the 9-inch circulars, and they're the Chow Goose. I'm not a huge fan of the 9-inch circulars if I'm doing something that has a lot of purling. I find that it's not comfortable for me to purl with that tiny cord. But just straight vanilla, I can go stockinette in the round, nothing but knitting the whole way. I can totally use those 9-inch circular needles. So for the ribbing, I will probably, the ribbing at the cuff will probably end up being done on DPNs, and of course I'll need to use the DPNs for the heels and the toes. So I'm super excited about that. I mean, this kind of does look like a spring colorway, so it'll be exciting. So that's my April bound brag. Oh my goodness. my April Brown Baggy Knit Sock Club. So I thought since I didn't really have a whole lot done, I would show you some of my finished objects from quite a while back. The first one that I want to show you is horrendous. I don't know why I've kept these. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. These were a pair of socks that I made using a yarn brand called Aslan Trends, and it was their Santa Fe base, and it was, I believe it was, let me see, can I write it down? I didn't. It was, I don't remember the base, but it was definitely wool. But it had said, and I believe that there's nylon in there, but it did say on the description that it's machine washable. That was not true, because I made a pair of knee-high socks that shrunk like crazy. Now think about it. Knee-high socks take forever. So long, and they did. They took me a very long time. I can barely get my hand into these socks because they're so tight. That's the way, the direction that they shrunk. They shrunk this way. They shrunk a little bit lengthwise because my foot, there's no way my foot is getting in that. But for the most part, it shrunk this way. And because I used a pattern called the knee sock recipe by, what is her name? Mandy Harrington. Wonderful pattern. She goes from the cuff down, giving you increases and decreases along the back of the calf to give you the extra shaping that you may need. And it's good for somebody who's got bigger calves like I do. You can adjust the shaping to your own shape of legs, whether you've got bigger calves or not so much calf. She definitely does the math for you, and it was a great pattern. And hers was all stockinette, and I did it all, I chose to do it in ribbing because I was afraid that being a stockinette sock might get slouchy over time and not stay up as well. So I thought maybe the scrunch of the ribbing would hold them up better. So that's what I did. And like I said, very long socks. They took me forever, only for them to shrink into a shape that there is no human that I can imagine would be able to wear these socks. The foot is way too small. They're too tight, and the fabric that it ended up becoming is just horrendously stiff. Even if you could find somebody with this shape of foot and leg, it's not comfortable. It would not be worth even giving these to someone. I honestly do not know why I've kept these, and it's been a couple years. They look funny. Maybe I can, I don't know, maybe cut it up or something, because it's really that thick to where I can cut it. And I only washed them once. It's not like I kept washing them. It's just the one time. And it's so thick that I can cut this safely without any strands coming undone. So that was my biggest mishap in my knitting thus far. Biggest disappointment. But you know, that's what happens when we use these yarns and it says machine washable or it says superwash. I mean, we do take that risk putting it into the washing machine and or dryer. Most of my socks, as a matter of fact, every other pair of socks that I've ever done with different types of yarn, I can put into the washing machine and I can put them in the dryer and they come out perfect for those that are labeled as machine washable or superwash. So I was very, very surprised by this. But again, it is the risk that we take. You know, it's an animal fiber and its tendency is to react to heat, water, agitation, all of that in a particular way. And this one just didn't live up to the machine washable name. So that's, you know, I can't get too mad about it because it really is a risk. It's kind of like, you know, the same risk that we take when we buy hand-dyed yarns. You know, some of that color may bleed out and stain something else, or you know, the colors aren't going to be exactly what you thought it looked like on your monitor when you ordered it on the computer, or the skeins are going to be different. I mean, the fact that it's made by hand in some way, and I don't know if this is made by hand, the yarn, but I mean, it's treated in some way by humans. It's the risk that we take, and I was very disappointed, and I actually still have a skein of this left, a brand new skein, and I don't know what to do with it, because being the person that I am, I can't see myself throwing away an entire skein of yarn. I keep thinking I want to give it to a friend who likes to knit stuffed animals and stuff like that. I figure those aren't going to get washed quite as often as socks, and if it does shrink, it's fine. It's still going to be a stuffed animal and be in the shape of whatever animal she's chosen to make out of it. But I can't bring myself to give away that yarn to someone, knowing how much I dislike it. So I don't know. I really don't know what to do with it. I'm torn. It's very odd, but that's that, you know. Again, it's a risk, so be careful, you know, washing your hand knits. So there's another project that I did a while back, another pair of socks. These were my first ever toe up socks. And this, the main color here, this orange, it was called Knit Picks Stroll Sport, and I don't believe that they make this anymore. This was a pumpkin colorway. Now these two here, this color that I have on the toes and right here, and this yellow, I don't know what those are. I somehow have these random balls of yarn that have magically appeared in my stash. I'm sure that I must have been given them at some point, but I don't remember who. I don't remember when. Most of them probably didn't have labels. And some of them are probably my own purchases, leftovers from other purchases from a time when I didn't have Ravelry to document every single skein of yarn. So I don't know what these are. And they came out fine. They fit great, and they've held up in the washer. But like I said, this was my first pair of toe up, and they are not stretchy at the bind off. I mean, they're super stretchy in the cuff, but this does not open up as well as I'd like. I can still get them on over my heel, but it's a little bit of a struggle. I still wear them. They work fine. They keep me warm in the winter. But it is a little, you know, it's a learning experience. You can definitely see I was brand new. I didn't know anything about using a bigger needle for your bind off or finding a stretchier type of bind off. So there's those, and I actually really like these. They're thick and warm. They're nice house socks. So those were my not so perfect items. And I think a while back I showed you all some yarn that I had dyed using tea bags and sports drinks mix. Well, that wasn't my first time dyeing my own yarn. I dyed some Cascade Superwash several years ago with Kool-Aid. This kerchief was actually the Chastain Park shawl, and that was by Mariana Wegener. And it's a little small for me, and I'm sure I could have made it bigger. It was a very simple pattern, but I only had the 220 yards of this Cascade. But this was dyed with strawberry, which is the lighter pink. Cherry is the red stripes you see, and then the lemon lime. Very highly concentrated on the red and the green. Highly, highly concentrated Kool-Aid to water ratio. But I was able to get some pretty vibrant colors, and I really like it. When I first finished dyeing the yarn, one of my friends at work called this color Strawberry Mojito. So it's super, I think it's a super apt name. Kind of looks like a strawberry mojito. But I think I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to rip this out. Because even though I like the colors and the pattern was perfect, the size isn't right for me. I would like something a little bit bigger for it as a shawl, or it's not something that I would wear. So I think I'm going to pull this out and maybe make some fingerless mitts out of this yarn. I think that would be kind of cute. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do with that. It's not, this one isn't a bad thing per se. I mean, it came out the way it should have. It's just, I find once I finished it, I found that I didn't wear it, and I think it's just not big enough. Like, it's too small. Like the wingspan isn't long enough for me to really keep it somewhere, you know, to wear it here. It's too small. It's not going to stay at all. So yeah, I'm gonna pull this out at some point and make some fingerless mitts. And let's see, the last thing that I was gonna show you is this beauty. This I love. Love, 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 love. This was called A Little Obsession by the Knitting Therapist, this pattern. And the yarn that I use, look at how it pulled. Oh, it makes me so happy the way that it pulled like that. The purples, black, teal. It just, oh, I love it. It's just so different. I wasn't really used to buying, this was one of the first yarns that I ever bought on an Etsy shop. It was one of the first hand dyed yarns that I'd ever gotten. And I fell in love with it because of the purple and the teal. Those are my colors. I love them. Love, love, love. And I love how it turned out. The yarn was called, I'm going to have to put a tag here for sure because I don't know how to pronounce it. It looks German. Piratenwoll, Sockenwoll. It was a 75-25 merino nylon base. Just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I love this so much. The way that it pulled. I know a lot of people don't like when yarns pull, but I adore it. It's just so fun. Look at that. There's a good look at that. Oh, it's so pretty. I love it. And it just kept doing that all the way down. Oh, I love it. Just one of my absolute favorite scarves ever. And this, the Little Obsession pattern, super easy, very memorizable. You just keep going and going and going and going. It's so addicting. And the colors were just turned out so amazing. I adore this thing, and the way that it makes its own ruffly edge. And the pattern was very simple. I think, and you know, it's a pattern that's not very popular on Ravelry. I think that there are only 10 patterns on there, so you should go check it out. It's super easy, and it worked with, you know, sometimes you think, oh, I don't want to do very open lace with a hand painted yarn because it's not going to show. But I mean, this is a perfect example of some amazingness that can happen, and it's nice and light and airy, and I mean, you just knit it as long as you wanted. This is a pretty good length. I love it. This is one of my favorite accessories. I absolutely adore it. And I love it because I can wear it. It makes me think of, you know, back in the 50s when the women would get in their convertibles and they would go for I almost stabbed myself in the eye. They would go for a ride in their convertibles along the California coast, just looking all glamorous. That's what I feel like. That's how I like wearing this. So super cute. You don't have to just wear your scarf around your neck. And it's nice and light. You don't have to wear it just in winter. You can wear it on a lighter, I like being glamorous. You know, wear it on during the more warmer times when it's not quite hot enough for no scarf, but you just want a little bit of something. So it's a really nice pattern. It's one of those that, you know, you just kind of stumble upon, and there's hardly anyone doing or any projects for it. So you should go check it out. It's really simple. And play with your yarns, play with color. Don't be afraid to mix lace and hand painted yarn, because you never know what it's going to do. You never know what kind of outcome you're going to get. It could be a total wonderful surprise. So that's what happened with that one. I realized that this is very, very short tonight. But like I said, I didn't have a whole lot done this week. I went to some movies with my son. This week was his, he had his birthday yesterday, so we went to some movies this past week. 3 days, we saw a movie each day. The first one that we watched was Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence. It was a really interesting movie. It was different, and it was different than what I expected it to be. I think I expected it to be super action-y and just a lot of fighting and, you know, girl power, but this one was more of one of those like mental kind of shows, not crazy mental, but it just kind of makes you think and it makes you wonder what's going on. And then at the end, you're kind of like, oh, that's why she was doing that. Or, you know, sometimes you're thinking, I don't understand why she did that. Or why did they make a point of showing that particular scene? And there was like really no point to it. But you don't find out till later on there was a point to it. So it was just a really interesting movie. And I love Jennifer Lawrence. So had a really, really good time watching that one. That was Red Sparrow. And then the one that we watched the day before yesterday was A Wrinkle in Time. Oh my God, I was so happy to see that somebody was making that. I remember reading that book decades and decades ago. I don't remember the exact story in total. It's been a very long time. But watching the movie, I didn't feel like it was something surprising. Like, I didn't feel like I was shortchanged or anything. And I really would like to go back and read those books. I don't recall them being very long. I think I remember that they were 3 books, that there was like a series. So I think that I want to go back and look for those and see if I'm correct. And if I am, are they going to do the other 2? So I think it was a trilogy. I think. I could be thinking of something else. Like I said, it was ages and ages and ages ago. I was mesmerized by this film. It was so beautiful, absolutely stunning. And there are some sad parts and some really dark moments. And then there's some really joyous and happy moments. But for the most, you know, and I was crying. The story did have me crying, but I think that the first moment that I shed a tear in that movie was because of how stunningly beautiful it was. Just visually amazing. I was sitting there with a big giant grin. Just the tears were streaming down my face because it was absolutely beautiful. The makeup and the costumes and the landscapes and the special effects, everything together was perfect. I was on cloud 9 watching that movie. I don't know if you've ever listened to a song that made you cry, not because of the words, not because of any kind of history attached to that song, because, you know, that happens. You hear a song and it reminds you of an era in your life and it could make you cry. I'm talking about, have you ever cried just because the song was so beautiful? I was a choir person in high school, middle school and high school. I was in choir the whole time. My son was in choir when he was in high school. So when I hear a really, really good choral piece, when I hear somebody singing something so perfectly, hitting those notes just right, just putting so much beauty into a song, I will cry. The song could be happy. Sometimes I may not even know what the song says, because a lot of times in choirs it's a whole other language. But if it's done perfectly, I will cry. It will just bring up this emotion in me. That's what that movie did for me. It brought up so much in me, and most of it, yes, there were the sad parts, the darker parts, but most of it was absolute pure joy. I can't say enough about that movie. I love it. A Wrinkle in Time, you really, really got to see that. It's just stunning. Yeah. Well, and then the other movie that we watched was Love, Simon. We watched that yesterday. And that's kind of a teenage angst romantic story, kind of a comedy. I mean, there's a lot of funny parts and everything, you know, and you know it's going to make you cry. I knew walking in I was going to cry. There was going to be emotion. It was an emotional thing. It was, you know, a romantic comedy kind of thing. And I knew I was going to cry. Sure enough, I did. I was like, no, I don't want to cry. It's my son's birthday. But I do. I get that. I don't watch romantic comedies all that much for that reason. I just cry. Not necessarily, you know, because sometimes some romantic comedies can be really sappy and sad and really bringing you down. And then all of a sudden it gives you the feels, the happiness at the end, you know, the payoff. But I don't watch it because I know I'm going to cry. Especially in theaters, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go see that because I know. And that's what happened. We watched that one and it was so good. It was a really good movie. I liked that very much. So that's what I was doing, just hanging out with my son for his birthday week. I wish I had it right now, but I went to, I think it was at Walgreens. You know, Walgreens tends to have some odd, random gifts and toys and stuff. And I found this huge, gosh, it was a good at least 2 feet tall peep, like Easter peep, but it was all these rainbowy colors. I wish I had it to show you, but that's what I gave him for his birthday because, you know, he likes peeps. So I gave him that. That was one of his gifts for his birthday. But you know, sometimes you just got to spend the quality time with your family and let the other things go. And that's what we did. My daughter and my other son, we were all together celebrating my son's birthday and just enjoyed some time together. And I hope that, you know, when you have that moment that you can spend time with your family, your loved ones, and let everything else go, you know, just for a moment, be with them fully 100%. It really is honestly, truly worth it for all the parties involved. So I hope that you have a chance to do that sometime this week. And I will let you go and we'll talk again next time. Bye.